She pulled a man out of the flooded street, until the news revealed he owned the entire district. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. It was a rainy afternoon in the city, the kind where the streets fill up fast with water and the sky seems to weigh heavy with dark clouds. Amanda walked briskly down the sidewalk, trying to avoid the puddles that had formed in the cracks of the street. She had just finished her shift at the diner and was on her way home, eager to get out of the downpour. Her thin jacket did little to protect her from the cold, and she hugged her arms tighter against her body. As she passed a street corner, she heard a shout, followed by a splash. Without thinking, Amanda turned toward the sound, her heart racing. A man was struggling in the rising floodwater, his legs kicking frantically as the water dragged him further down the street. Without hesitating, Amanda dashed toward him. She reached out, grabbing his arm just as the current threatened to pull him under. Her fingers slipped on the slick surface of his jacket, but she held on, pulling him with all her strength. The man was heavier than she expected, but somehow, she managed to drag him to the safety of the sidewalk. Panting and soaked to the bone, Amanda finally let out a shaky breath. The man, still dazed and shivering, looked up at her with wide eyes. "Thank you," he muttered, his voice hoarse from the cold. I didn't think I was going to make it." Amanda nodded, her pulse still racing from the adrenaline. "You're okay now," she said, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. He offered her a weak smile, but it quickly faded as he shivered again. Amanda glanced around, unsure of what to do next. The rain was coming down harder now, and the streets were beginning to flood even more. She looked back at him, noting the expensive watch on his wrist and the designer jacket he wore, soaked and clinging to his body. Despite his obvious wealth, he looked completely out of place in this situation. I can't believe you're out here in this storm," she said, her voice soft with concern. "I'm fine," he replied, shaking his head. "I didn't expect this, either. I was just trying to get home." Amanda gave him a half-smile, her eyes scanning the street for help. "Well, you've got to be more careful next time," she said. "But hey, at least you've got a good coat on. That's something, right?" The man gave a short laugh, his teeth chattering slightly. "Yeah, thank you again. I owe you." Amanda shrugged, trying to dismiss the feeling of awkwardness that had settled in the air. "It's no big deal. You're lucky I was walking by." With a sigh, she turned to leave. The rain was showing no signs of letting up, and she was exhausted from the long shift. But as she took a step away from him, the man called out to her. "Wait," he said, his voice stronger now. "Please, let me at least give you something for your trouble. You saved my life." Amanda hesitated. She didn't want to seem ungrateful, but she wasn't used to people offering her anything. She barely made enough to get by, and the idea of accepting money from a stranger made her uncomfortable. "I don't need anything," she said quickly. Just be more careful next time." He looked at her for a moment, as if considering her words, before nodding slowly. "All right, but please, let me get you something, anything. I don't know how to repay you." Amanda shook her head, smiling a little. "No need. Just stay safe." She turned and walked away, her steps quicker now, hoping he wouldn't insist. As she walked down the street, Amanda couldn't help but feel a strange sense of satisfaction. It wasn't often she got to do something that felt truly good, something that made a real difference. But even as she tried to brush off the feeling, she couldn't ignore the thought that lingered in the back of her mind. Who was that man? Why was he out in the rain? And why did he seem so familiar? Amanda shrugged it off. She'd probably never see him again. But as she reached her apartment and dried off, the memory of his eyes lingered. Something about him had seemed different, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. As Amanda made her way through the rain-soaked streets, she couldn't shake the strange feeling that had settled in her chest. The encounter with the man who had been struggling in the flood lingered in her mind, his face now etched in her memory. She had tried to brush it off, telling herself it was just another act of kindness that she had done without thinking, but something about him seemed so out of place. The expensive jacket, the designer watch, and the way he spoke, there was more to him than met the eye. Still, She tried to forget about it. She had her own problems to deal with. Her shift at the diner had been long, and now she was back in her tiny apartment, trying to warm up. The small space was cluttered with old furniture, the walls thin and cracked, and the constant sound of traffic outside only reminded her of how little she had. But as she stripped off her wet clothes and grabbed a towel, her phone buzzed, pulling her back to reality. It was a text message from an unknown number. "Hi Amanda, this is Ryan. I was the man you helped out of the flood today. I hope you're doing okay. Please let me know if you'd like to grab coffee sometime. I'd like to properly thank you for saving my life." She stared at the message for a moment, her fingers hovering over the screen. Ryan. She hadn't asked for his name, and he certainly hadn't asked for hers. Yet here he was, reaching out to her in such an unexpected way. She hadn't expected to hear from him, let alone receive an invitation for coffee. But the offer was genuine, and something in her gut told her to take him up on it. He had saved her from feeling like a complete stranger in this city, and in a way, she owed him a small piece of her time. After a deep breath, she typed back, "Sure, coffee sounds good. When and where?" A few moments later, he responded, "How about tomorrow at 10 in the morning at that little cafe on 5th and Oak? It's quiet and cozy, perfect for a proper thank you." Amanda felt a flutter in her chest. Was this just a gesture of gratitude, or was there more to it? She shook her head, trying not to overthink it. He had saved her life once. This would just be a coffee between two people who had shared a strange moment in time. The next morning, Amanda walked into the cafe, a small, charming place with vintage decor and the smell of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. She felt a mix of excitement and nerves as she looked around. At the back corner, she spotted him, Ryan, sitting at a table, his back straight and his posture confident. Yet there was something about him that seemed far more approachable than he had the day before. She walked over and gave him a small wave. "Hey Ryan," she greeted him, a little uncertain of what to expect. He smiled up at her, his blue eyes warm. "Hey Amanda, I'm glad you could make it. Please, have a seat." As she sat down, she noticed he was dressed casually, a far cry from the designer look he had the day before. A simple plaid shirt and jeans, but he still had that calm, commanding presence. She could see why she'd felt a strange connection to him. It wasn't just the way he looked. It was the way he carried himself, like he was a man who had seen the world but still valued the small moments. They ordered their coffees, and the conversation started with small talk, nothing too serious. Amanda told him about her job at the diner and her dreams of one day owning an art studio. Ryan listened intently, asking questions and showing genuine interest. He seemed like someone who cared, and the ease between them made Amanda feel more comfortable than she had expected. They continued talking about life, their struggles, and what brought them to this point. But as the conversation wore on, Ryan became more reflective. "I'm not sure if you'll believe me," he said quietly, looking down into his cup, "but I wasn't always like this. I used to be different, more closed off. But something about that moment, when you saved me, made me realize how much I've been missing." Amanda frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Ryan hesitated, his eyes meeting hers. "I come from a family that has everything. Money, power, influence. But I've never felt truly connected to anyone. It wasn't until I almost lost everything in that flood that I realized I was alone." Amanda sat up straighter, her heart racing. This wasn't just small talk anymore. He was opening up in a way that made her feel like they were both sharing pieces of themselves. "I guess I was just looking for someone real," Ryan continued. "And when you helped me, it felt like something real for the first time in a long while. I want to know you better, Amanda." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. Amanda didn't know how to respond. She had never expected to find herself in this kind of situation, sitting across from a man who had revealed so much of his own vulnerabilities, a man she barely knew but who seemed to be offering her a chance at something more. She opened her mouth to speak, but paused, unsure of what to say. Was this just him trying to ease his conscience, or was it something else entirely? Just then, Ryan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small business card. He slid it across the table toward her. "If you ever need anything at all, I'm here." Amanda looked down at the card, the words, "Ryan Taylor, CEO of Taylor Enterprises," printed neatly in black ink. She stared at it for a moment, her mind racing. This man was a CEO? The same man she had saved from the flood was not just anyone. He was someone with power, someone who could offer her opportunities she had only ever dreamed of. She took a deep breath and looked up at him, her voice steady. "Thank you," she said, still processing the sudden shift in everything. "I'll keep that in mind." The rest of their meeting passed in a blur, and when it was time to leave, Ryan stood and extended his hand to her. "I'll be in touch," he said. Amanda took his hand, unsure of what the future held, but feeling something shift inside her. This wasn't just a chance encounter anymore. This was the beginning of something entirely unexpected. The following week, Amanda found herself thinking about Ryan more often than she had expected. Their meeting had left an imprint on her heart, the way he had opened up to her, and the way his words seemed so genuine. She had spent most of her life being independent, doing things on her own, but something about Ryan made her feel like she was part of something bigger than herself. She told herself she wasn't getting too attached, that she was just helping him out of a flood, literally and figuratively. But she couldn't deny the fact that there was something about him that made her feel more alive. She had received another text from him the day after their coffee meeting. "I hope you're doing well, Amanda. I've been thinking a lot about our conversation. I'd like to invite you to an event this weekend. It's a charity gala I'm hosting, and I'd really like you to attend." She read the message over and over again. A charity gala? The idea of being in a room full of wealthy people made her stomach churn. But at the same time, she felt the familiar flutter of excitement. She had never been to such an event, never had the chance to mingle with people in a different world than the one she knew. Ryan's invitation felt like a chance to step outside of her comfort zone, to experience something different. "Why not?" she muttered to herself, tapping out a reply. "I'd be honored to attend." The night of the gala arrived, and Amanda stood in front of her mirror, staring at the dress she had rented. It was simple, elegant, and she knew it was the best she could afford. She had borrowed a pair of heels from her friend Jenny, who insisted she look her best. Amanda had never been the type to care much about appearances, but tonight was different. She couldn't help but feel a little nervous. As she made her way to the venue, she couldn't shake the feeling that she didn't belong there. The event was being held at a luxurious hotel in the heart of the city, and when she walked inside, she was immediately struck by the opulence. Crystal chandeliers hung from the high ceiling, and the marble floors gleamed under the soft lighting. People in tuxedos and gowns mingled around her, their laughter and chatter filling the room. Amanda felt out of place in her modest dress and simple makeup. She had never been in a crowd like this before, and it was overwhelming. As she looked around, trying to spot Ryan, her eyes locked on him from across the room. He was talking to a group of people, his broad shoulders relaxed, but there was something about the way he carried himself that drew her in. He wasn't just the CEO of a major corporation. He seemed like someone who actually cared about the people around him. She took a deep breath and walked over to him. When he saw her, a wide smile spread across his face. "Amanda, you came," he said, his voice warm. "I'm so glad you could make it." "I wouldn't miss it," she replied, feeling her nerves start to fade as he greeted her with a friendly hug. He led her to a table, where they sat together and chatted about the event. Ryan introduced her to a few people, but Amanda quickly realized that she didn't have much in common with the others. They talked about stocks, real estate, and luxury vacations, things she couldn't even relate to. She felt like a fish out of water. After a while, Ryan leaned in closer, his expression softening. "You seem uncomfortable. Are you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle. Amanda hesitated for a moment before nodding. "I'm just not used to this. It's a little overwhelming." Ryan smiled knowingly. "I get that. These events can be a bit much. But you're doing great. Just be yourself." Amanda smiled back, feeling a little better. "Thanks, Ryan. It means a lot to hear that." As the night wore on, Amanda found herself warming up to the people around her, thanks to Ryan's reassuring presence. She was starting to feel more like she belonged, even though she still felt like an outsider in this world of wealth and power. Later in the evening, Ryan stood up to give a speech. He thanked everyone for attending the gala and spoke about the charity they were supporting, a foundation that helped underprivileged children receive education and opportunities they otherwise wouldn't have. Amanda listened intently, admiring his passion for the cause. He wasn't just a CEO with a fortune. He was someone who wanted to make a difference. After his speech, Ryan came back to the table and looked at Amanda with a soft smile. "I'm glad you're here," he said quietly. "It's been a while since I've met someone who doesn't care about all of this." Amanda chuckled softly. "I think I'm just trying to keep my head above water." Ryan's eyes softened as he leaned in closer. You don't have to do it alone, Amanda. You've already done more than most people would ever do. I know I can't change everything, but I want to help. You deserve better than this. The words struck Amanda deeply. She had always prided herself on being independent, on doing things on her own. But in that moment, she realized that maybe it wasn't so bad to let someone help. Maybe, just maybe, she didn't have to go through everything alone. The night ended with a sense of possibility in the air, and as Amanda left the gala, Ryan's words echoed in her mind. You deserve better than this. What did he mean by that? What was he offering her? And was she ready to accept it? The days following the gala felt like a blur to Amanda. She couldn't shake the weight of Ryan's words. You deserve better than this. They haunted her in quiet moments, during her shifts at the diner, and even when she tried to unwind at home. For the first time in a long while, she wondered if she was truly settling for less than she deserved. She had always been the kind of person to take life as it came, doing what she had to in order to survive. But the life Ryan spoke of, the life where people didn't just survive but thrived, felt like a dream she had never dared to imagine. It wasn't just the wealth and the success that Ryan represented. It was the way he cared, the way he saw the world not just as a place for business, but as a place for making a difference. Amanda found herself thinking about him more and more. She replayed their conversations in her head, especially the one where he'd said, "You don't have to do it alone." She had brushed it off at the time, but now it felt like an invitation. Maybe she didn't have to do it alone. Maybe, just maybe, she could trust someone enough to let them in. Over the weekend, Ryan called her again. Hey Amanda, I was thinking about what we talked about, and I'd really like to offer you something. I know you've been through a lot, and you deserve more. I can't just sit back and do nothing when I know I can help. She hesitated for a moment, the offer weighing heavily on her. What kind of help are you talking about? She asked, her voice soft. Ryan paused before speaking. I know you've been struggling to make ends meet. I've got a position available at Taylor Enterprises. Nothing too fancy, just an entry-level role to get your foot in the door. But it's a start, Amanda. It's a chance to get out of the cycle you're in. She didn't answer right away. The idea of working for him, of accepting his help, felt complicated. She had always prided herself on being independent, on making her own way. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized that accepting help didn't mean giving up her independence. It meant giving herself a chance to change her life. I don't know, she said, her voice uncertain. I'm not sure if I'm ready for something like that. Ryan's voice softened. I understand. But think about it, Amanda. This could be the opportunity that changes everything. You don't have to decide right now, but don't close the door before you've had a chance to look inside. Amanda sat in silence, feeling the weight of his words. She had always told herself that she could make it on her own, that she didn't need anyone to help her. But deep down, she knew that the life she was living wasn't the one she had dreamed of. She wanted more. She deserved more. And maybe, just maybe, Ryan was offering her the chance to step into something better. After a long pause, she finally spoke. Okay, I'll take a chance. But I don't want special treatment just because you know me. I want to earn my place there. Ryan chuckled softly. I wouldn't have it any other way, Amanda. You'll have to work hard, just like everyone else. But I believe in you. That was all Amanda needed to hear. The next day, she found herself at Taylor Enterprises for an interview. She was nervous, her palms sweaty as she waited in the sleek, modern lobby. She had never been in a building like this before. Everything was polished, from the marble floors to the glass walls. When her name was called, she stood up, her heart pounding in her chest. Ryan greeted her with a warm smile as he led her to the interview room. He was dressed in a sharp suit, but there was no mistaking the friendly, genuine look in his eyes. Relax, Amanda, he said as they sat down. This is just a conversation. We're not here to make you uncomfortable. The interview went smoothly, more like a friendly chat than a formal job interview. Ryan asked her about her goals, her experiences, and why she thought she would be a good fit for the company. Amanda spoke honestly, sharing her passion for art, her struggles with balancing work and dreams, and her desire to find a way out of her current situation. Ryan listened intently, nodding along, offering encouragement. By the end of the conversation, Amanda felt more at ease than she had expected. Ryan stood up and extended his hand to her. Welcome to the team, Amanda. You're starting on Monday. Let's make this work. As she walked out of the building, the reality of what had just happened began to sink in. She had a job at Taylor Enterprises. A real job. A chance to prove to herself that she could make something of her life. It wasn't just the salary or the benefits that excited her, it was the opportunity. The chance to do something different. To step into a new world where she could thrive. But as Amanda walked home that day, a small part of her couldn't help but wonder what Ryan's true intentions were. Was he offering her this opportunity because he genuinely cared about her future? Or was there something more? She shook the thought from her head. It didn't matter. What mattered was that she had taken the first step. And for the first time in a long time, Amanda felt hopeful about what the future held. The first day at Taylor Enterprises felt like a whirlwind to Amanda. She had woken up early, nerves coursing through her veins as she dressed in the best outfit she could find in her closet. A simple blouse and slacks she had bought from a second-hand store. She didn't have much in the way of professional attire, but she made do. The building was intimidating, a towering structure of glass and steel, its shiny surface reflecting the busy city streets below. As she walked into the lobby, the air felt thick with the kind of polished success she had only ever seen in movies. The receptionist greeted her with a polite smile, and before long, Amanda found herself on the elevator heading to the floor where she would begin her new life. Her heart was pounding as she stepped off the elevator, and she was immediately greeted by the human resources manager, a woman in her late 30s who looked like she had it all together. "You must be Amanda," she said with a firm handshake. "I'm Karen. Welcome to the team. Let me show you to your desk." The company was busy, employees walking briskly between meetings, the hum of voices and phone calls filling the air. Karen led Amanda to a small cubicle with a computer and a stack of files. "This will be your space for now," Karen explained. "You'll be handling administrative tasks for the first few weeks, scheduling meetings, taking calls, things like that. Ryan said you have a strong work ethic, so I'm sure you'll do just fine." Amanda nodded, trying to suppress the nervous energy buzzing inside her. As Karen left her to settle in, Amanda looked around the office. It was all so new, so different from the diner she had worked at just days ago. The thought made her smile. She was here. She was part of something. But with the excitement came the pressure. She knew she had to prove herself. The hours passed in a blur of typing, answering phone calls, and setting up meetings. Amanda had always been a hard worker, but the pace here was something else. She found herself trying to keep up with the demands, her mind racing as she checked off one task after another. As the day came to a close, she found herself sitting at her desk, exhausted but satisfied. It was a good kind of tired, the kind that came with knowing she had made progress. She looked at the clock and realized it was time to go home. But before she could gather her things, Ryan appeared at her cubicle. "Hey, Amanda," he said, his voice warm and friendly. "How was your first day?" She stood up, surprised to see him, but pleased nonetheless. "It was a lot," she admitted with a small laugh. "But I think I can handle it. Everyone's been really nice." Ryan smiled, a glimmer of pride in his eyes. "I knew you'd do great. I'm glad you're here." Amanda's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected this kind of support, not after everything that had happened. It was comforting to know that Ryan genuinely believed in her. He wasn't just offering her a job. He was giving her a chance to prove herself, to take a step forward. "Thank you," she said softly, meeting his gaze. "I won't let you down." Ryan chuckled, his expression softening. "I'm sure you won't. Listen, I wanted to ask you something. There's an event next week, a dinner with some of our top clients. I know it's a lot to ask, but I'd love for you to come with me. You've been doing great here, and it's an opportunity to meet some important people." Amanda blinked, taken aback. "A dinner? With clients?" Ryan nodded, his smile never faltering. "Yeah, it's a formal event, but I think it would be good for you to network, get to know some of the people who might help you advance here. Plus, it'll give us a chance to talk more outside of work." The offer hung in the air, and Amanda felt a sense of nervous excitement stir within her. She had never been to anything so formal, but part of her felt like this could be another step in the right direction. She hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Okay, I'll go. I'll need to borrow a dress, though." Ryan waved his hand dismissively. "Don't worry about that. I'll take care of everything. Just show up. You've earned this." As he turned to leave, Amanda sat back down at her desk, her mind racing. This was happening. She was really stepping into a new world. But with that excitement came a sense of doubt. Was she really ready for this? Could she truly fit into a world so different from the one she had always known? And more importantly, Why was Ryan being so generous? It seemed too good to be true. Was he really just helping her because he believed in her? Or was there something more behind his kindness? These questions lingered in Amanda's mind as she packed up her things and headed home. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her thoughts a whirlwind of emotions. She had always dreamed of a better life, of a chance to escape the struggles she had known for so long. And now, it seemed like that dream was within reach. But at what cost? The gala would be a big step. It could change everything. She just hoped that when the time came, she would be ready to take it. The evening of the charity dinner arrived faster than Amanda expected. She stood in front of her bathroom mirror, staring at the dress Ryan had arranged for her. It was elegant, far more sophisticated than anything she had ever worn. The deep blue fabric shimmered slightly under the light, and she couldn't help but feel both excited and nervous. She had never been part of a world like this, and the idea of stepping into a high-end event where powerful people mingled felt surreal. But Ryan's kindness had given her the chance to experience something entirely new, and she was determined not to back out now. She took a deep breath, adjusted the neckline of her dress, and smoothed out the fabric before making her way to the venue. The dinner was being held at one of the city's most prestigious hotels, a grand structure that seemed to touch the sky. As she approached the entrance, she couldn't help but feel a wave of apprehension. She wasn't used to being in places like this. The towering columns, the sparkling chandeliers inside, and the wealth that practically oozed from every corner made her feel small. Yet, there she was, standing on the threshold of something far bigger than anything she had ever known. As Amanda entered the ballroom, she was immediately enveloped in the luxurious atmosphere. The soft murmur of conversation, the clinking of glasses, and the polished air of success made her feel like she was in a different world entirely. She glanced around, spotting Ryan across the room, standing with a group of well-dressed people. His smile caught her attention, and he excused himself from the conversation when he saw her. "Amanda, you look stunning," he said with a genuine smile as he walked toward her. She blushed, feeling out of place in her new surroundings, but Ryan's kindness made her feel at ease. "Thank you," she replied, her voice soft but warm. "I'm glad you came," he said, offering his arm. "Let me introduce you to some people. Don't be nervous. Everyone here is just here to support the cause." As they walked through the crowd, Amanda felt a mix of awe and intimidation. She wasn't used to rubbing elbows with executives and philanthropists, but Ryan made it easy. He introduced her to people, spoke highly of her work ethic, and made sure she was comfortable. The night passed by in a haze of smiles, handshakes, and polite conversation. Amanda had never been a fan of small talk, but there was something about the way Ryan interacted with everyone that put her at ease. He had a way of making people feel important, and he never once made her feel out of place. Still, there was a part of her that couldn't ignore the fact that she didn't belong here. The conversations around her were about business deals, investments, and luxury trips, topics she couldn't relate to. She felt like an outsider, watching as everyone around her seemed to glide through life with ease. As the night wore on, Ryan pulled her aside, his expression softening. "Amanda," he said, his voice quieter now, "I know this is all new to you, but you're handling it well. I'm proud of you." She smiled faintly, feeling a wave of gratitude wash over her. "I don't know if I belong here," she admitted, looking around at the sea of expensive suits and gowns. "Of course you do," Ryan said, his voice reassuring. "You belong here as much as anyone else. You're more than just your past. You're someone who deserves the chance to be part of something bigger, something meaningful. And I see that in you." Amanda felt a lump form in her throat. The sincerity in his words made her realize how much she had been holding back. She had always told herself that she didn't need anyone, that she could handle everything on her own. But standing here with Ryan, hearing him speak so openly and honestly, made her feel like maybe, just maybe, there was more to life than just survival. The night was winding down when Ryan excused himself to give his final speech of the evening. Amanda watched as he took the stage, his commanding presence filling the room. He spoke passionately about the charity, the work they were doing, and how grateful he was for everyone's support. But as he spoke, Amanda couldn't help but feel a sense of disconnect. It wasn't because of the cause. It was because she realized something important about herself. She had spent so long focusing on just getting by that she had forgotten what it felt like to dream. As Ryan spoke about making a difference in the world, Amanda realized she had the power to make a difference too. She just needed to believe in herself the way he believed in her. As the evening wrapped up, Ryan found her once again, his eyes soft and understanding. "What did you think of the night?" he asked, his voice casual but knowing. Amanda took a deep breath, a smile playing on her lips. "It was eye-opening. I'm still trying to take it all in," she said. Ryan nodded. "It's a lot to absorb. But I'm glad you're here. I think you'll do great things, Amanda." As the night came to a close and Amanda headed home, she found herself feeling lighter than she had in a long time. The night had opened her eyes to so much more than just a new job or a fancy gala. It had shown her the possibilities she had never allowed herself to see before. And as she walked through the quiet streets, the city lights shining down on her, Amanda realized that she was no longer just surviving. She was beginning to live. The days after the gala were a whirlwind for Amanda. She had settled into her new role at Taylor Enterprises and started to feel like she was finally finding her place in this world she had always admired from afar. Ryan's words continued to resonate with her, especially the part about deserving more than she had been willing to accept. She found herself working harder than ever, determined to prove to herself, and to him, that she was capable. Yet, the deeper she got into her new life, the more she realized that something was shifting within her. Amanda had always been independent, content to take care of herself, but as the days passed, she started to question the life she had settled for. The truth was, she was exhausted. There were moments when she wanted to let her guard down, to trust people and lean on them for support, but the walls she had built over the years didn't come down easily. One afternoon, as she sat at her desk organizing paperwork, Ryan walked into the office, a bright smile on his face. "How's everything going?" he asked, his voice light but caring. "Good," Amanda replied, her fingers tapping on the desk. As she avoided his gaze. "Busy but good." Ryan leaned against her cubicle, his expression thoughtful. "You're doing great, Amanda, but I've noticed you've been a little distant lately. Everything okay?" Amanda hesitated for a moment. She wasn't one to open up easily, but she had to admit, something had been bothering her. She had been so focused on working hard and proving herself that she hadn't stopped to consider what she really needed. "I don't know," she said finally, meeting his eyes. "I guess I'm just feeling overwhelmed. I've been pushing myself so hard, trying to make this work, and sometimes it feels like I'm losing myself." Ryan's gaze softened. He straightened up and took a step closer. "Amanda," he said gently, "you don't have to do it all alone. I know you're used to taking care of yourself, but you're part of this team now. And part of being part of something bigger is letting others help when you need it." Her heart raced at his words. It felt like a crack in the wall she had spent years building, a crack she wasn't sure she was ready to face. But in that moment, she knew he was right. She didn't have to do it all on her own. She had already come so far. She was capable of so much more, but maybe it was okay to let someone else in. "I just don't want to let anyone down," Amanda said quietly, her voice almost a whisper. Ryan placed a hand on her shoulder, a reassuring touch. "You won't. You're doing just fine. But you don't have to carry all of this weight by yourself. It's okay to ask for help." His words hit her harder than she expected. She had always prided herself on being strong, on being self-sufficient. But deep down, she knew it was okay to lean on others, to trust them with her struggles. It was a lesson she hadn't learned yet, but she was starting to understand. That evening, as Amanda walked home, she found herself thinking about Ryan's words. She was no longer the same person who had walked into Taylor Enterprises just a few weeks ago. She had grown, learned, and realized that maybe she didn't have to have all the answers. Maybe she didn't have to do everything on her own. The next morning, she woke up with a sense of clarity. She was still going to work hard, but she wasn't going to drown herself in the process. She would take things one step at a time, and when she needed help, she would accept it. The day passed in a blur of meetings and tasks, but something felt different. Amanda felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from her shoulders. When she saw Ryan again later that afternoon, she gave him a small smile. "Thanks," she said softly. Ryan raised an eyebrow in surprise. "For what?" "For reminding me that it's okay to not have it all figured out," Amanda replied. "For letting me know that asking for help doesn't make me weak. It actually makes me stronger." Ryan smiled, his expression warm. "I'm glad you're starting to see that. You're doing amazing, Amanda. Don't forget that." As the days passed, Amanda continued to settle into her role. She started taking on more responsibilities, handling tasks with greater confidence. And every now and then, when things felt like they were getting too much, she would remember Ryan's words and remind herself that she didn't have to carry the weight alone. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was learning to live, to truly live. And that, she realized, was the most important step of all. As the weeks passed, Amanda settled further into her new life. The work at Taylor Enterprises became more familiar, and she was growing into her role with confidence. The anxiety she once felt about her place in the company slowly faded as she built relationships with her colleagues. Yet, there was one thing that kept nagging at her, the ever-present question of what Ryan's intentions were. He had been supportive, kind, and attentive from the very beginning, but she couldn't help but wonder if there was more behind his generosity. She found herself looking forward to their conversations, enjoying the easy way he spoke to her and the moments when he offered his guidance. But every time she began to let her guard down, that nagging voice in her head would resurface. Was he only helping her because of his position? Was he simply being nice, or was he expecting something in return? One afternoon, as Amanda was sitting at her desk, going over some reports, Ryan stopped by her cubicle. He leaned against the edge of her desk, a small smile on his face. "How's everything going?" he asked. She looked up at him, trying to keep her thoughts from betraying her. "Good," she said, returning the smile. "Busy, but I'm getting the hang of it." "I'm glad to hear that," Ryan replied, his eyes lighting up with approval. "You've been doing an excellent job. I know things haven't been easy for you, but I think you're really starting to shine here." Amanda's heart skipped a beat at his praise, and for a moment, all her doubts melted away. "Thanks, Ryan. I really appreciate the support." He gave her a warm smile before continuing. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something. There's an opportunity coming up, something that I think you'd be perfect for. It's a project I'm working on, and I'd like you to be involved. It's going to take a lot of effort, but I believe in you, Amanda." The words hung in the air, and Amanda's pulse quickened. She had expected him to say something like this eventually, but she wasn't prepared for the excitement that surged through her at the thought of being trusted with something important. "I'm honored, Ryan. What's the project?" Ryan paused, choosing his words carefully. "It's a new initiative we're launching, something that will give back to the community. We're working on a series of events to raise funds for local programs, and I think you'd be a great fit to help organize them. It's a lot of responsibility, but I know you're capable of handling it." Amanda felt a mixture of excitement and fear. This was it, the opportunity she had been waiting for, but it was also a big step forward. A part of her hesitated. She didn't want to disappoint him, and she didn't want to let her doubts hold her back. "I'm in," she said, her voice steady, though her heart raced. "I'd love to help. Just tell me what I need to do." Ryan smiled, clearly pleased. "That's the spirit. I knew you'd say yes. I'll have my assistant send over the details, and we'll get started soon." As the conversation wrapped up, Amanda couldn't help but feel a surge of gratitude. She had worked hard to get here, and now Ryan was offering her the chance to prove herself even further. But there was still that lingering question. Was this just another way for him to show his generosity? Or was there something else at play? Later that evening, as Amanda sat in her apartment, going over the project details, she found herself thinking about Ryan once again. He had always been kind to her, but this project felt different. It wasn't just a casual task. It was an opportunity to be a part of something meaningful. She was going to be involved in planning events that would actually make a difference in the community. The thought excited her, but also made her uneasy. Was it possible that Ryan was genuinely trying to help her grow, or was there a hidden agenda behind his offer? She shook her head, trying to push the thoughts away. She had to focus on the project and not get caught up in overthinking things. As the days passed, Amanda threw herself into the work, determined to prove herself. She coordinated meetings, helped plan the events, and took every task seriously. The team was supportive, and Ryan continued to offer his encouragement. Slowly, she began to realize that the doubts she had been carrying were unnecessary. Ryan wasn't trying to manipulate her. He was simply giving her a chance to grow, to prove herself, and to make a real difference. The realization brought a sense of peace to Amanda's heart. She had been so afraid of trusting others, of letting her guard down, but in doing so, she had almost missed the opportunity of a lifetime. As the project took shape, Amanda's confidence grew. She was no longer just a survivor. She was thriving. And for the first time in a long time, she realized that she wasn't alone. Ryan's support had been a turning point in her life. He had seen something in her that she hadn't seen in herself, and now, she was beginning to believe in her own potential. She still wasn't sure where things with Ryan would go, but for now, that didn't matter. She was exactly where she needed to be, and for the first time in her life, she felt like she was on the right path. A few weeks later, the first event was a success. The room was filled with people, the air alive with conversation and laughter. Amanda stood at the front, watching the fruits of her labor come together. She had done it. She had made it happen. And as she looked over at Ryan, who was chatting with a group of guests, she realized something. She had stepped into this new world with doubts, but now, it felt like home. As the months went by, Amanda's life continued to evolve in ways she never could have imagined. Her role at Taylor Enterprises grew more significant with each passing day. She had successfully helped organize multiple charity events, earning respect from her colleagues and a growing sense of confidence in her abilities. The sense of fulfillment she had once only dreamed of was now a reality. She no longer saw herself as someone who simply went through the motions. She was an active participant in shaping her future. Ryan had become not just a mentor, but a friend. His belief in her, his constant encouragement, and his unwavering support had changed her perspective on what was possible. For the first time, Amanda felt like she was living a life she had worked hard for, not one she simply had to accept. One afternoon, after another successful event, Amanda found herself sitting across from Ryan in the company's glass-walled conference room. The sun was setting outside, casting a warm glow across the room. Ryan looked at her with a smile, as if proud of the woman she had become. "You've come a long way, Amanda," he said, his voice filled with admiration. "I knew from the moment I met you that you had potential, but seeing you grow like this, it's incredible." Amanda met his gaze, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Ryan," she said, her voice steady. "You gave me a chance when I didn't even believe in myself. I owe a lot of this to you." Ryan's smile deepened. "You did the hard work. I just gave you the opportunity. You've earned everything that's come your way." Amanda felt a warmth spread through her chest. She had worked so hard to get to this point, but hearing those words from Ryan made it all feel worth it. She had proven to herself that she was capable of so much more than she had ever believed. After their conversation, Ryan stood up and walked over to the window, looking out over the city. "There's something else I wanted to talk to you about, Amanda," he said, his tone shifting slightly. "I've been thinking about your future here, and I think it's time for you to take the next step." Amanda's heart skipped a beat. She had no idea what he meant by that, but her mind raced with possibilities. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice a little shaky. Ryan turned back to face her, his expression serious. "I want to offer you a position. A leadership role. You've earned it, Amanda. I'm not just talking about the charity work you've done. You've proven yourself in every aspect of this company. I believe you're ready for more responsibility, and I think you'll do great things in a bigger role." Amanda's breath caught in her throat. A leadership role? The words felt surreal. She had always imagined this kind of opportunity, but to actually be offered it was beyond anything she could have dreamed. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I mean, I'm still new to all of this. I don't know if I'm ready for something like that." Ryan stepped closer to her, his expression softening. "I've watched you work, Amanda. I've seen your dedication, your passion, your drive. You've already proven that you're ready. You've got everything it takes to succeed. I wouldn't offer you this if I didn't believe in you." His words settled in her heart like a comforting weight. She had spent so long doubting herself, so long wondering if she was truly capable of more. But Ryan saw something in her that she had never seen in herself, and in that moment, Amanda realized that maybe it was time to stop holding herself back. Maybe it was time to believe in herself the way Ryan had always believed in her. "I don't know what to say," Amanda said softly, her voice filled with emotion. "Thank you, Ryan. I won't let you down." Ryan smiled again, his eyes filled with pride. "I know you won't." Over the next few weeks, Amanda stepped into her new role with the same determination that had guided her throughout her journey. The leadership position brought new challenges, but it also brought a sense of fulfillment she had never experienced before. She was no longer just surviving. She was thriving. She was making a real impact, not just in her career, but in her life as a whole. As the months continued to pass, Amanda's relationship with Ryan deepened. They spent more time together, not just as colleagues, but as friends. Ryan continued to offer his guidance, but now it felt more like a partnership. They supported each other, challenged each other, and celebrated each other's successes. Amanda realized that the life she had once thought was impossible had become her reality. She had come so far from the woman who had once struggled to make ends meet, and she had done it all with hard work, resilience, and the support of the people who believed in her. One evening, as they sat together in the office, looking over plans for an upcoming event, Ryan turned to her with a soft smile. "You've come a long way, Amanda," he said, his voice full of warmth. "And I couldn't be prouder of you." Amanda met his gaze, her heart full of gratitude. "Thank you, Ryan," she said, her voice steady, "for everything." As the days passed, Amanda's future at Taylor Enterprises became more secure than ever. She had achieved things she never thought possible, and the journey she had taken to get there had transformed her in ways she never imagined. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a leader, a woman who had found her place in the world, and a person who knew her worth. And for the first time in her life, Amanda felt truly at home.